Most finance professionals think they're doing the right thing to get promoted. They work really hard, they improve reporting, they fix processes, they keep everything running, and then they get stuck. And potentially, this is not because they aren't capable, because they're focused on the wrong thing. And the biggest career mistake I've seen with finance leaders is that they become almost too valuable in their current role and they have a too good to promote problem. If you're the person who owns month end, the one who fixes every issue, every firefighting that comes your way, the one that everyone relies on to keep everything running, you've been the rock for ages, and then you just become absolutely too difficult to replace. And that creates a problem for you because from a founder's perspective or the CEO's perspective, promoting you really creates a gap. That gap is basically too risky and there's no clear backfills. So instead of moving you up, which is where you want to go, they just keep you where you are. And not because you're not good enough, but because you're too important where you are, especially in a fast-moving environment where sometimes things can look a little shaky. Now, what does this look like in practice? So you might recognize this if you are heavily involved in month end, you are reviewing everything before it goes out, you're the go-to person for every single finance question. You really struggle to step away without things slowing down. You might also hear things like, we really need you where you are right now. We just need to stabilize things first. And that can go on for years. And I'm not over exaggerating when I say this, but it can literally go on for years. And this can really stop you becoming a CFO. So why can this stop you becoming a CFO? A CFO is not the person holding everything together day to day. We focused this in last week's video on why some finance directors never become CFOs. So you can click on that above and below. And that a CFO is focused on decisions, strategy, direction, communication with founders, boards, and investors. So you're still deep in the detail, responsible for execution and solving operational problems, then you're not operating at CFO level, even if you're capable of it. So the shift you need to make to move forward is you need to actively make yourself replaceable. Now that sounds quite counterintuitive, but it's really critical to get out of the same role that you've been doing for years. So what does that look like? So the first one is you need to build a structure that works without you. And this basically means clear ownership across the team, documenting those processes and consistent reporting. And with AI, it's actually quite straightforward to do that now. Before you used to have to sit down and write down actually how you do it. Now you just record a video doing it and then it can be transcribed by AI and then they can turn that into proper documentation. So super easy. So there is no reason not to do that. So you want to do that so that month end can run without you. Issues can be handled without escalation and then information flows without you chasing it. So if everything still depends on you, then you can't step up, basically. And I have to be honest, you probably also want to do that so you can have a proper holiday. So if everything relies on you, my guess is when you go on holiday, you're still working. And for a start, try and have a proper holiday and then potentially stepping away from that day to day and moving into a more strategic CFO role will be much easier. Number two is to delegate properly, not half delegate. So I have seen finance leaders say that they delegate, but they don't really fully let go. Instead, they're still reviewing everything, they still make final decisions, they still get pulled back. Proper delegation means that there is a clear ownership, there is clear expectations with all of the team, and you're letting people run with it. I will say people make mistakes. That is always going to happen, but that's how the team improves. They're going to improve by making mistakes. If they're making repeatable mistakes, okay, then you've got a problem. But if they're making a mistake and then you're able to fix it or show them how to fix it and they don't do it again, that's the easiest way to learn. Number 3 is to start operating at the next level early. So I did go through this last week, but I just want to reiterate this is really important. You don't want to wait for the CFO role. You want to start joining commercial conversations now. You want to start contributing to strategy now. And you want to work closely with founders now. And focusing on cash runway and growth decisions is something you should be thinking about now. So this is how people will start seeing you differently. If you're not doing any of those things, it will take some time as you start doing those new strategic roles or responsibilities, but over quite quickly, a couple of months, people will start seeing you a bit differently. You also need to be very clear on what you want. I will say that sometimes the issue is simply that no one knows that you want the bigger role. Does a founder know about your ambition? Does the HR department, if there is one? Have you had a conversation with the founder and the HR? Have you told them that you want to move into the CFO, that this is what you're working towards? Then you might want to have that conversation. But be prepared, that conversation may say what potentially needs to change, what gaps need to be filled. And if you know that, then you can work with them on filling those gaps if there are ones. And then also you have that clarity. You can see where you need to grow, some skills that you might need. And also the support, like the HR and founder should support you in that growth. So if you don't let them know that this is what you want, then assumptions get made. It honestly might just be as simple as a founder never thought that you wanted to step up. And so in their head, they were probably thinking that they would hire a CFO above you. Number 5 is to shift your identity. So this is the harder part. This is the bit that it's a bit more time consuming, but ultimately you want to move from the person who delivers to I'm the person who leads and decides. So this can take months. This means you might have to let go some control. You may have to be comfortable of not knowing all of the details, which is very hard sometimes for my accounting friends. And you want to focus on the outcomes, not on the tasks. So if you're not getting promoted, it might be worth asking, are you too valuable where you are? Because that's one of the what's quite a common reason finance leaders get stuck. The goal is not to be indispensable in execution. The goal is to be trusted at a higher level. So if you want to become a CFO, your job is to build a team that can run without you. You also want to step into strategic conversations and start operating at that level before the title comes. This is part of my series on becoming a CFO in a startup. You might also find useful the 5 skills that every CFO must learn and why some finance directors never become CFOs. So take a look at those videos. I'll leave those links below. Next week, I'm going to have a look at what a CFO role looks like. So what are you actually doing day to day? And if you want to become a confident and strategic finance leader in a startup within the next 12 months, then your plan is to subscribe to my YouTube channel for weekly tips and videos like this one. The second one is to have a look at my book, Financial Leadership Fundamentals, How to Become a CFO in a Startup or Scale Up. And finally, if you want additional support, then you can join the FLF course where we fast track your growth with structure and support. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.